The discovery in the deep. The perpetual twilight of Proxima Beta's endless ocean pressed against the viewport of James Hawthorne's salvage pod, a constant reminder of the crushing depths that surrounded him. 40 years of deep-sea salvage work had taught him to respect these waters, but today something felt different. The ancient sonar system, cobbled together from 3 different alien technologies, pinged with an unusual signature. "Control, this is Hawthorne," he transmitted through the murky waters. "Got something interesting at Sector 7 Gamma. Looks bigger than our usual finds." The response crackled through his comm system, distorted by the mineral-rich waters. "Acknowledged, Hawthorne. Remember, anything military-grade belongs to the Viridian Authority. Don't get any ideas." James smiled to himself, the wrinkles around his eyes deepening. After 2 decades under Viridian rule, he'd learned to keep his best finds off the books. The pod's lights cut through the darkness, revealing a massive shape emerging from the gloom. His breath caught in his throat. There, half buried in the sediment, lay the unmistakable silhouette of a human submarine. Not the primitive vessels from the early days of Earth, but one of the last warships built before the Exodus. The Viridians had spent centuries convincing the galaxy that humans were technological primitives, barely worth noting in the grand scheme of things, but James knew better. He maneuvered his pod closer, careful to avoid the swarms of bioluminescent creatures that had made the wreck their home. The hull was largely intact, its stealth coating still visible beneath years of coral growth. Most importantly, he recognized the insignia partially visible on the conning tower: Task Force Leviathan. "Control, false alarm," he transmitted casually. "Just another piece of Mendoran mining equipment. Nothing worth salvaging." "Understood, Hawthorne. Return to base for shift change." James waited until the communication link closed before activating his private scanning array. The submarine's hull was composed of materials that shouldn't have existed according to official human history: quantum-aligned titanium mesh, dark matter shielding, and what appeared to be early versions of the very same stealth technology the Viridians claimed to have invented. As he documented the find, a shadow passed overhead. James's sensors screamed a warning. A Viridian patrol ship. He quickly shut down all non-essential systems, letting his pod drift naturally with the current. The patrol ship's scanning beams swept the area, its advanced sensors probing the depths. James held his breath, watching as the beams passed within meters of the submarine. The stealth coating, even after all these years, did its job. The Viridian ship moved on, its crew unaware of the treasure that lay below. Once the patrol was gone, James began the delicate process of attaching marker buoys to the submarine. These weren't standard salvage markers. They were special devices of his own design, broadcasting signals that would appear as natural oceanic phenomena to Viridian sensors. As he worked, his mind raced with possibilities. The submarine wasn't just a relic. It was proof. Proof that humanity's technological achievements hadn't been exaggerated in old stories. Proof that the Viridians had been lying all along. He accessed the pod's secure storage compartment and retrieved a quantum resonance scanner, another piece of primitive human technology he'd kept hidden for years. The scanner's display revealed something extraordinary. The submarine's reactor was intact. Not just intact, but in a state of suspended animation, its quantum core waiting to be reactivated. Well, James muttered to himself, "Isn't that interesting?" He spent the next several hours documenting every detail he could, knowing that once he began the restoration process, the Viridians would eventually notice something was wrong. The submarine's specifications were beyond anything in the official records. Its weapons systems alone could turn the tide of a space battle, assuming they could be restored. As his shift drew to a close, James placed the last marker and prepared to return to the surface. He took one final look at the submarine, its massive form a dark promise in the murky waters. The Viridians had spent generations keeping humanity divided, scattered across the galaxy in small colonies, never allowed to rebuild their former strength. But they'd made one crucial mistake. They'd assumed all of humanity's greatest achievements had been found and destroyed. They hadn't counted on Task Force Leviathan, or the secrets it held, and they certainly hadn't counted on James Hawthorne, the simple salvage worker who'd spent his life preparing for exactly this moment. As his pod rose toward the surface, James began composing a series of encrypted messages to his network of contacts throughout the human colonies. Engineers, former military personnel, anyone who still remembered what humanity had once been capable of. It would take time, and the risks were enormous, but the potential reward was even greater. A chance to remind the galaxy why humanity had once been feared among the stars. The surface of Proxima Beta's ocean came into view, its endless waves concealing the treasure that lay below. James allowed himself a small smile. The Viridians thought they'd relegated humanity to the role of scavengers, picking through the leftovers of superior civilizations. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. Legacy of Steel. 3 weeks after his discovery, James stood in a makeshift command center hidden within an abandoned mining facility deep beneath Proxima Beta's ocean floor. Holographic displays showed the submarine schematics, while a dozen of the best minds from the scattered human colonies worked to understand its systems. "The quantum core is unlike anything we've seen," said Rena Ishikawa, her weathered hands moving through the holographic interface with practiced ease. Once the lead engineer for the Nova Madrid shipyards, she'd spent the last decade hiding her talents, repairing cargo vessels for alien merchants. "It's not just advanced, it's elegant. Whoever designed this was thinking centuries ahead." James watched as she highlighted different sections of the engine schematic. "Can we get it running without alerting the Viridians?" "That's the brilliant part," Rena smiled, her eyes bright with excitement. "The stealth systems are integrated at the quantum level. When active, the reactor's signature will be indistinguishable from background radiation." From across the room, Zain Patel looked up from his security console. The former colonial defense officer had been monitoring Viridian patrol patterns since they'd begun the restoration. "We've got another problem. Authority ships have increased their sweeps of the area. They know something's happening, even if they don't know what." James nodded, unsurprised. The Viridians hadn't maintained their control over human space by being careless. "How long until they find us?" 3 days, maybe 4, Zain replied. "They're using new scanning frequencies. Eventually, they'll get lucky." The submarine, now freed from its ancient resting place, hung suspended in a massive underwater dock. Its hull had been cleared of centuries of growth, revealing the sleek lines of a vessel that had once been the pride of humanity's fleet. The name Nemesis was barely visible on its side, a ghost of letters in quantum-resistant paint. "Then we work faster," James said, his voice carrying across the chamber. "Rena, focus on the core. Zain, I need you to coordinate with our observers topside. The moment the Viridians change their patrol pattern, I want to know." As the team dispersed to their tasks, James made his way to the submarine's command center. The interior had been partially restored, decades of corrosion carefully removed to reveal technology that shouldn't have existed. He ran his hand along the control panel, feeling the subtle vibration of systems coming back to life. A soft chime announced another presence. "They're afraid," said a quiet voice behind him. James turned to see Kira Volkov, their resident AI specialist. She'd been working to decrypt the submarine's computer systems, spending hours interfacing with code that predated the Viridian conquest. "The team?" James asked. "The Viridians," Kira corrected, her cybernetic eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "Their patrol patterns aren't just search protocols. They're scared. Something's got them spooked across the entire sector." James considered this. "Have they detected us?" "No," Kira smiled, the expression making the circuitry beneath her skin shimmer. "They're worried about something else. Something bigger. I've been monitoring their communications. There's been a surge in encrypted traffic between their high command and the frontier fleet." Before James could respond, an alarm blared through the facility. Zane's voice came over the comm. "We've got incoming. Multiple signatures, not Viridian. Different configuration entirely." James rushed to the control room, Kira close behind. The tactical display showed several vessels descending through Proxima Beta's atmosphere. Their design was unlike anything in their database. "Unknown contacts," Zane reported, his fingers flying over the controls. "They're not broadcasting any recognition codes, and their weapons are hot." Rena's voice crackled through the comm. "The core is at 60%. We need another day at least." James watched as the unknown ships began a search pattern, their sensors probing the ocean depths. They were looking for something specific, and he had a sinking feeling he knew what it was. "They're not Viridian," Kira said, her cybernetic systems analyzing the data. "The design architecture. It's old. Older than the Exodus. These ships shouldn't exist." Understanding dawned on James. Because they're from the same era as the Nemesis. Whatever sent these ships, they're here for the submarine. The facility shook as the first depth charges detonated above them. The unknown vessels had begun their attack, methodically targeting areas of the ocean floor. "Everyone to battle stations," James ordered, his voice calm despite the chaos. "Rena, forget the safety protocols. Get that core online now. Zane, begin evacuation procedures for non-essential personnel. Kira, I need you to interface with the Nemesis' systems. If these ships are from the same era, maybe they'll recognize our authentication codes." As the team scrambled to respond, James made his way to the submarine's bridge. The Nemesis hummed with increasing power, its systems awakening after centuries of slumber. The unknown ships continued their assault, each explosion bringing them closer to discovering the hidden facility. Through the viewport, James watched as ancient defense turrets emerged from the submarine's hull, their quantum-charged barrels tracking targets that hadn't existed when they were built. The Nemesis was more than just a submarine. It was a weapon of last resort, designed to fight wars that humanity had lost long ago. And now, as both the Viridian Authority and these mysterious attackers converged on their location, James realized that the war might not be as finished as everyone thought. The real question was, which side would the Nemesis choose in this new conflict? The facility shook again, harder this time. Above them, the battle for humanity's future was about to begin. Rising tide. The Nemesis burst from its hidden dock as the facility collapsed around them, quantum engines howling to life for the first time in centuries. James gripped the command chair as the submarine sliced through the deep waters of Proxima Beta, pursued by vessels that seemed to have emerged from humanity's forgotten past. "Multiple hits on decks 3 through 7, Zane reported, his hands dancing across the tactical console, shields holding at 40%. Rena's voice crackled through the comm system. "The core's stabilizing, but these maneuvers are pushing it to the limit. We need to be careful or—" Another explosion rocked the submarine. Through the main viewport, James watched as 3 of the unknown vessels moved to surround them, their ancient weapons blazing through the water. "Kira," James called out, "what have you found in the computer systems?" The AI specialist's cybernetic eyes flickered as she processed data at inhuman speeds. "These ships, they're Task Force Leviathan. Like us, but they're not supposed to be here. According to the Nemesis's records, they were destroyed during the last battle of the Exodus." "Clearly not all of them," James muttered. "Can you get into their systems?" "Working on it," Kira replied. "Their encryption is familiar, too familiar." "James, I think they're running the same AI core as the Nemesis." The implications hit James like a physical blow. These weren't just ships from the same era. They were part of the same fleet, possibly even controlled by the same artificial intelligence that now slumbered within the Nemesis's quantum processors. "All hands, brace for impact," Zane shouted as another barrage of weapons fire streaked toward them. But the hits never came. At the last moment, the energy beams curved away, dissipating harmlessly into the ocean. "They're testing us," Kira realized aloud. The AI, It's trying to determine if we're worthy of the Nemesis. Before James could respond, new contacts appeared on their sensors. Viridian warships, dozens of them, descending through the atmosphere. Out of the frying pan, Zane muttered. James straightened in his command chair. Rena, give me everything you can from the engines. Kira, keep working on those systems. Zane, target the Viridians. Let's show them what their primitive humans can do. Stormfront. The battle that erupted beneath Proxima Beta's waves would be spoken of for generations. The Nemesis moved with impossible grace, its ancient weapons tearing through Viridian shields like paper. The Task Force Leviathan ships, apparently satisfied with their test, fell into formation alongside them. Multiple Viridian capital ships disabled, Zane reported, a note of satisfaction in his voice. Their weapons can't penetrate our quantum shields. Kira's voice carried an edge of excitement. James, I've got it. The AI. It's accepting my access codes. I'm in their network. The holographic displays flickered, and a new presence made itself known. A figure composed of shifting light appeared on the bridge, its form suggesting both male and female characteristics. I am Guardian, it announced, its voice resonating through the submarine systems. Last overseer of Task Force Leviathan. You have proven worthy of the legacy. Why attack us? James demanded. Not attack. Test. The Nemesis carries more than weapons. It carries the truth, the reason for humanity's exile, the real reason the Viridians fear us. The hologram waved its hand, and new information flooded their screens. James's eyes widened as he read. The Exodus hadn't been a retreat. It had been a strategic withdrawal. Humanity hadn't been defeated. They'd been protecting something. The Quantum Forge, Guardian explained. Technology capable of rewriting the fundamental laws of physics within a localized space. The Viridians didn't drive us from Earth. We left to keep this power from them. Another explosion rocked the submarine as more Viridian ships joined the battle. And now? James asked. Now, Guardian replied. We take it back. The last stand. The waters of Proxima Beta boiled as the combined might of Task Force Leviathan engaged the Viridian Armada. The Nemesis led the charge, its restored systems performing beyond even their original specifications. Broadcasting on all frequencies, Kira announced. Every human colony in the sector will see this. And see it they did. The truth spread like wildfire. Proof of humanity's true technological achievements. Evidence of the Viridians' lies. But more importantly, they saw hope. They saw their scattered people united again, fighting back against their supposed superiors. Multiple human vessels approaching, Zane reported. Colonial defense ships, retrofitted cargo vessels. Everyone who can fight is joining us. James watched as the battle turned. The Viridians, for all their supposed superiority, had never faced the full might of humanity's greatest achievements. The Task Force Leviathan ships moved in perfect synchronization, their combined quantum weapons creating rifts in space-time itself. Guardian, James called out. The Quantum Forge, where is it? The AI's hologram smiled. Where they'd never think to look. In the heart of every task force vessel. In pieces, scattered but preserved, waiting to be reunited. The Nemesis carries the final component. Understanding dawned on James's face. That's why the ships had to work together. We're not just fighting. We're rebuilding it. The Viridian fleet, realizing too late what they faced, began to retreat. But the damage was done. Across the sector, humans rose up, throwing off centuries of manufactured limitations and reclaiming their heritage. All ships, James broadcast, his voice carrying to every vessel in the battle. Push them back. Today we remind the galaxy who we are. The Quantum Forge activated, its pieces resonating across the task force ships. Reality itself seemed to bend as humanity's greatest achievement came back online. The Viridian ships found their advanced technology negated, their weapons useless against the localized physics manipulated by the Forge. In the end, It wasn't even close. Hours later, as the dust settled and the waters calmed, James stood on the Nemesis's bridge, watching as representatives from the human colonies arrived to witness the truth for themselves. "What now?" Rena asked, standing beside him. James looked at the Quantum Forge's readings, at the power humanity had hidden away to protect the galaxy from itself. "Now we do better. We use this power responsibly, rebuild our civilization. Not to conquer, but to ensure we're never conquered again." Guardian's hologram nodded approvingly. "The true test was never about power. It was about wisdom. You've proven humanity ready for both." As the first light of dawn broke through Proxima Beta's waters, James thought about the future. The Viridians would return, eventually. Other species would fear humanity's resurgence, but they would face a united human race, one that remembered both its strength and its responsibility. The Nemesis, once thought to be junk, had become more than a weapon. It had become a symbol of humanity's resilience, a reminder that no species could be kept down forever. And somewhere in the deep, the waters of Proxima Beta held new secrets, waiting for the next generation of explorers to find them. The end.